Alright, we've got Owen St. Preux versus Jamal Hill coming up in the co-main event. First off, we'll start talking about Owen St. Preux. He's got a record of 25 and 14. Got 12 knockouts on that, 8 submissions, 5 decisions. Very respectable record. He's got some very solid wins. He's fought Corey Anderson, Yushin Okami. He's got a win over Shogun. But misses back in 2014 when Shogun really was a force to be reckoned with. And also Nikita Krylov, who's well looking at being a competitor, and I could easily see him having the title in the next year or two with not much of a push. He is 2-3 in his last 5, but if you look at who his losses against, I don't think that's really anything to be ashamed of. Okay, so we'll talk about his last fight. He fought Alonzo Menifield. He has a very awkward style. I think has adapted in the last year or two after a series of losses that he had. He is very patient. He's not looking to rush in. He likes to keep people at range with his kicks, and obviously with his massive reach and his long leg reach as well, he has got the perfect body type for that. He didn't go for any takedowns in this one, which surprised me a bit. Obviously being a big submission guy with a Von Flue choke and a number of submissions on his record. So it's a decent first round. He definitely won the first round, just outpointed him, I'd say, nothing too fancy. And then he had a very solid walk-off knockout in the second round. And what I liked about that was he knocked him out, but he didn't pile on with a ground and pound when it wasn't necessary. And I'm sure Menifield appreciated that, but I appreciate that in a fighter as well. I think it shows a great deal of respect. So moving on to Jamal Hill, much newer fighter. He's 7-0 and 1. His one no contest came earlier this year. It was a first round knockout. He had against Abreu, I think is how you pronounce it. It got overturned to a no contest after he failed for marijuana. So I think he had to give up 20% of his purse, and he got a 6-month ban, which is very harsh. I'm sure everyone's seen what's going on with Nico Price at the minute, and I wouldn't be surprised if he changed the marijuana rules in the next year. So there's not really much to talk about in this one. He's a very decent striker. Abreu, who he fought, is a straight up jiu-jitsu player, so he had a massive advantage coming into this one. I'm not trying to take anything away from his victory. Obviously he does still have to get the knockout, and he did that in emphatic fashion. But what the fight I really want to talk about is Darko Stosic fight, which was in the summer of last year. Okay, Darko Stosic's record of 13 and 4, big judo player, judoka I believe the term is, and he showed that in this fight. The thing that worried me most about Hill's performance though is his complete lack of takedown defence. He got taken down 7 times despite being very dominant in the fight. I mean, he did win the unanimous decision, but if Stosic had taken a bit more, capitalised a bit more with his takedowns, done a bit more work on the ground, he could have easily lost that. And it wasn't necessarily that his takedown defence was bad, he just didn't seem to be trying to defend the takedowns. And obviously you can point that to the skill of his competitor, but against St. Preux, that is going to be a problem. And I assume something he has worked on in the last year since then. Alright, so he starts off very patient in the first round of this fight. Similar to St. Preux, he's a very long rangey striker, but he's very straight up the middle with his strikes. You know, jabs, crosses, he doesn't throw a lot of hooks, not much around the side. His knees are pretty decent, his kicks weren't too bad either, but he really picked up in the second round and showed his maturity, I'd say. I appreciate he's 29 years old, but for a 7-0 fighter, well 6-0 he was at the time, it does show a lot of fight maturity and fight IQ in that one. I think his opponent did struggle a bit with his gas tank towards the end of the fight, but that's not to take anything away from Hill at all. It's a very decent performance from him, and I look forward to seeing how he does in the future. Alright, so let's talk about my pick for this fight. The odds will be coming up on your screen now. I personally like Owen St. Preux by stoppage for this one. I appreciate that is a plus 240 or a 12 to 5, and that is quite wide odds. And Jamal Hill is the favourite coming into this one at a minus 170. But I just think the experience of St. Preux, coupled with the very impressive ground game that he does have, and I mean, I've not seen any ground game at all from Jamal Hill in all the footage I could find from him. Nothing impressive off the ground at all. He hasn't got any submissions on his record. So yeah, I like going St. Preux probably by submission. I think that's his best bet as well. I do think he is more than capable of getting a knockout, as we saw against Manyfield with a one-punch knockout. But I think they're probably more closely matched on the feet. And I think with a combination of Hill's poor takedown defence and St. Preux's fantastic submission game, I think that's definitely the way to go in this fight. And also, you've got to think St. Preux ranked 15 at the minute in the light heavyweight division. If he loses this, his ranking's gone, and it's much harder to work your way back up to being a main event after that. I think he's got 7 or 8 main events, and in reality, he probably is still a main event fighter. But he's got to get his ranking back up to 7 or 8 at the least, I think. He's not going to do that off this fight, obviously, with it being against an unranked competitor. But he gets this one. He's fighting a Ryan Spann, a Johnny Walker, another one of the young guys coming up after this. And a win over that puts him right back up in the title shot. And again, if he does win this, I wouldn't mind seeing him against Anthony Smith, who only fought last week. I think that would be a great fight night main event. Alright, so just a quick word on Jamal Hill for the sake of it. I think if he is going to win, it's going to be by decision. I think he'll eke out a technical striking match. If he sorted his takedown defence out, for him to win by decision to plus 200, sorry. And I think that might be worth having a look into as well, if you're confident on Jamal Hill. Okay, so that's going to wrap this one up. Later today I'm going to be doing a video about the bantamweight division. We've got TJ Dillashaw's return, so I'm going to be talking a bit about where he slots back into the division. Obviously he had his interview with Brett Okamoto yesterday. We'll talk a bit about that, and whether or not he'll be looking at a title fight in the near future. Please feel free to like and subscribe. Hope everyone enjoyed the video. Tell your friends, tell your neighbours. Hope you all have a great day, and I'll see you later on.